You guys seem to really enjoy the last video that I did like this, so I figured I'd go ahead and make another one. This is 5 more indie games you should, God, I honestly, I can't even remember what I called the last video, but it's 5 more indie games you should play, but probably haven't. I think that's what I'm gonna call it. Anyway, the first game I got for you guys today is called Family Man. So, right off the rip, you're probably seeing the gameplay and you're like, what is this? Like a Minecraft type of game? And honestly, it's not Minecraft-like, okay? You're not gonna be like building and crafting or anything like that, but it has a very similar art style. It has like that Minecraft-y voxel art style, but anyway, the premise of this game is it's basically like a time management sim. So the name of the game kind of plays into it. You're like a family man, you know, you're a dad, you have a family to look after, but let's just say, I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say you and a buddy of yours gets drug into a very messy situation that you have to try to clean up. Long story short, it all revolves around money and how you acquire that money and how you pay off your dues. Are you gonna play it straight? Are you gonna stick to the legal path? Are you gonna take the illegal path and do some dirty work? And on top of carrying out these tasks, you also have to make sure that you stop by the house sometimes, you know, clean up some dishes, clean up the house, hang out with your family, make enough time for them. And it's all about time because you have to do this within the span of a day. So like the game takes place over the course of like 2 weeks. But by the end of each day, you have to pay off a certain amount of money to the mob, which is why it's really important that you balance, okay, when am I going to do what tasks? And you also have to make sure that you stop by the house because you have to maintain your family's happiness, otherwise your family will leave you. It may sound daunting, it may sound stressful, but trust me, like once you're playing the game, it actually works. Like it's weird. It's not ever necessarily stressful. It's just you get into this flow of, okay, I need to go here, I need to do this, I need to go over here, I need to do this task, I need to do this job, I need to pay this off real quick, and then go do this. There's also a lot of side quests in the game, which also kind of feed into the amount of money you can be paid. And you also don't have to just play it straight the entire time. If you want to get your hands dirty, you can, but let's just say there's gonna be some consequences for it. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil too much about the game, but yeah, it's an absolute treat of a game to play through. You can easily beat it in a day. It's on literally every console under the sun, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, PC. It goes on sale pretty often, and yeah, it's worth every penny. It's a lot of fun. The next game that I got for you guys is Gunfire Reborn. Now, I know this one is a bit more of a popular indie game, so like, you know, more people have at least heard of it. But surprisingly, there's still a lot of people that haven't played it. So to some people, this might be cheating because it is a bit more popular, but that being said, it is still an indie game, so it still counts, and I want more people to play it because it's still very underrated. Basically, think like Borderlands meets roguelite. Like, it's very hard to describe exactly what this game is because there's so many elements at play, but if I could explain it in the simplest terms, that's what it would be like. Borderlands meets like roguelite, like Risk of Rain 2. There's not much to explain here. I mean, it's your typical roguelite, you know, you go through the game and because it is a roguelite, not a roguelike, so that means that once you die, you know, you're still making progression in every death. Like every time that you die, you're able to level up, you're able to like start out with better gear, for example. As the game goes on, you'll gradually be leveling up your character, and then once you beat the game on like the normal difficulty, then there's another difficulty that unlocks that like opens up like more levels and possibilities and such for you. I don't play a ton of roguelites. Like I enjoy roguelites, it's just one of those things where I don't play too many of them too often, but when I do, you know, I'm very picky. Like if I'm gonna play a roguelite, I want to make sure it's not gonna waste my time, and Gunfire Reborn is definitely one of those where it does not waste your time. Like it's worth every second, and that the feedback loop in the gameplay just feels so good. Like when you're picking off the shots, just that feedback when you're getting those headshots. There's something about like the sound design and the graphics. I love the graphics in this game. Again, it's one of those things where I don't exactly know how to describe it. It's like, it's kind of low poly, but I really like the look. The characters are also really cool. You play as like these animals in the game. I went with the cat most of the time. I can't even remember what the cat's name was. It's like the starter character, but I honestly found that his abilities were just so good. There's some other characters that I ended up experimenting it with like throughout the game, and I also ended up like going back a little bit later on just to try out all the different characters, see who I preferred, but honestly, just more times than not, I stuck with the cat. That'll obviously come down to preference and play style and such though. Regardless, no matter how you choose to play, the only wrong way to play this game is by not playing it at all. It was on Game Pass a while ago. I don't know if it's still there, but regardless, it's another game where it's on a lot of consoles. I don't know if it's on the Switch, but I know for a fact it's on Xbox and PC. Whether it's on sale or whether it's not, it's worth every penny. It is such a fun game. I cannot recommend it enough. Next up, we have another game where I can't say too much about it, but I at least wanted to put it on your guys' radar, and that is Signalis. So Signalis is a throwback to the old school, like, days of survival horror on, like, the PS1, like OG Resident Evil, Silent Hill. It is I don't know how a game this good in this style exists today, and it's like a new IP, but it does, and I am so glad that it does. If you like Resident Evil, like old school Resident Evil, or if you've ever even been slightly interested in these kinds of games, this game will be for you. It literally just brings those classic gameplay tropes into the modern era, and it does it flawlessly while being unique and innovative enough and putting its own spin on things. And it's really hard to like describe this game and talk about it without spoiling it. It's one of those things where you need to play it. The art style isn't necessarily a callback to the old school kind of like survival horror games though, because there have been like I saw a couple indie games coming out recently where like they try to do the throwback to those PS1 era graphics. It isn't necessarily like that. It kind of does its own thing. It's more like that pixelated art style. One thing I really want to compliment about this game though is the sound design and the atmosphere. Like when you're walking through the halls and you hear those creaking noises or the echoes of your shots, and then and furthermore when it comes to like the atmosphere and the tension of like managing your resources in this game and like, okay, do I need to use this now? Do I save this for later? Like this game nails that perfectly. That is one of the defining features of survival horror in my opinion, is like inventory management and resource management and like looking around, exploration, like finding more ammo, finding more keys, finding whatever you need. And this game does that perfectly. Another thing that this game does really well, see, in most games, it depends on the game, right? Like if it's like a survival horror game, I'm more likely to, stop and read notes and such. But it really depends on the game if I'm actually going to stop and read stuff. This game, I actually wanted to read stuff. When you're like picking up these notes and you're reading these things, you're reading things on the wall, it's like you start to slowly piece things together with this story. It's just, and like towards the end, if you've been reading all the notes, picking stuff up, it all just comes together, and it's just the lore and the story is so good. This is another one that I've seen on Game Pass a while ago, but otherwise, again, I know I say this all the time, but literally, it's worth the money. If you got the money to put down, like, I can't recommend it enough. I mean, if there's ever a time where, like, a game is good, but I couldn't recommend it at full price, I would clarify that, and I'd be like, hey, if it's on sale, grab it then. But no, this is another one where, like, it doesn't matter. If you have the disposable income, why not support the developers? You know what I mean? Like, it is such a good game. Next up, we have 2 games. I know this is kind of cheating. This is technically like 6 indie games, but it is what it is. I couldn't pick one. So first off, they're both kind of similar, but they're kind of different. So the first one is a throwback to the Nintendo 64 era of platformers, and that is Super Kiwi 64. This is a very short game. You can beat it easily in a sitting. But it's really as simple as I described it. It is a throwback to the Nintendo 64 era of platformers. Think like Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, etc. You could really feel like the Banjo-Kazooie influence, at least I could when I was playing it, just something about the art style and such. But, it's just a 3D collectathon. It's a lot of fun. And then the other one I wanted to talk about is a game called Lunistus, which is more of a throwback to the PS1 era of platformers. N64 and PS1, sure, they were the same generation, but they had, their platformers were a little bit different the way they executed things. And Lunistus is very much more a PS1 era platformer per se. Again, similar to Super Kiwi 64, it's just a 3D collectathon, except this one is a bit more like action elements. It's a bit more intense. It's a little more difficult. It's not necessarily like, it's not like Crash Bandicoot 1 OG PS1, like difficult by any means, but it's definitely a bit more difficult than Super Kiwi 64. Super Kiwi 64 is more going for that like chill 3D collectathon, just laid back, having a chill, nostalgic play session, whereas Lunistus, it's definitely looking to challenge you just a little bit more. That being said, it's not overly difficult. I didn't really get stuck on anything throughout my playthrough per se. It took a bit more precision and skill, I guess. Again, I couldn't pick between these two, so I figured I'd just recommend both of them because they're both amazing and both of them are on... Well, Lunistus I've seen on other consoles, but I don't know about Super Kiwi 64. I only saw that on the eShop, so it might be on other platforms, it might be on PC, I'm not sure. I played it on the Switch personally, and and by the way, worth mentioning, even when it's not on sale, the Super Kiwi 64 is literally only like $3. And if you don't have $3 to spare, then let me go ahead and throw in just 2 more indie games into this list while we're at it. Tori 3D and Tori 2 are both 3D platformers on the Nintendo Switch. They're both relatively similar in the way that they play. Again, just 3D platformers, 3D collectathons and such. They're more platformer games than they are collectathons, though they're kind of both. But both of these are only $1. I'm talking like full price, not even when it's on sale. I don't know if this game's ever gone on sale, not like it needs to, because yeah, both of these games, Tori 3D and Tori 2, are literally just $1, just always on the Nintendo Switch. So Again, another one that I highly recommend, especially at that price. Like, it's totally worth it. And then finally, the last game on the list, we have Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption. So this is a game that I played on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if it's on other consoles. It might be. I didn't check. I'm sorry. I should probably start fact-checking these things before I record these videos. But this is a Souls-like game where you are fighting personified versions of the 7 deadly sins. Now, there's not much to spoil here, because if you know anything about, like, Souls games and Souls-like games, they're very cryptic, and the story is up to you to decipher through, like, item descriptions and lore and, reading into things and, figuring out what things are allegories for what. But, again, it's kind of easy to figure out what the allegories are, as these are the 7 deadly sins. Now, thankfully, this isn't like some indie Souls-likes where they try way too hard to be, like, overly difficult and end up becoming unfair. All of the bosses in this game, they feel straight out of a Souls game. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, they are perfectly tuned. They aren't too hard. They aren't too easy either. They're perfectly tuned in the Dark Souls sense, where they're difficult, but they're fair. Like, when you die, you know when you're making a mistake. You figure things out rather quickly as to, like, okay, this is how I need to defeat this boss. But again, it's never, like, spoon-fed to you as to how you need to do what. You have an initial tutorial at the beginning that teaches you how to run, how to attack, how to dodge, etc. But then that's it. The rest of the game, it's up to you to decide what bosses have what weaknesses and such. They give you all the tools that you need. Now, granted, this isn't a Souls-like game in terms of the exploration and the progression side of things, because it's pretty simple. It's basically a hub world. Think like the Nexus from Demon Souls, where it's a hub world, and then there's like these 7 like sign statue things or shrines or whatever, and then they'll take you to the boss fight. It's basically like one long boss rush, except it's not that long because it's literally only 7 bosses. So depending on your skill level, you could either beat the game in about an hour, or it could take you like, I don't know, like weeks. There's so many things I could compliment about this game. Again, the difficulty is literally perfectly tuned. The sound design is amazing. The graphics and the aesthetic of this game, it's got that dark, gloomy atmosphere. It's absolutely perfect. The art style is amazing as well. For some reason, it almost gave me like Little Nightmares vibes. It's not exactly like that art style, but it's kind of similar in some of the like more grotesque like bosses and creatures and stuff that you'll fight throughout the game. Again, I don't know if it's on other consoles. I played it personally on the Nintendo Switch, and I bought it when it was on sale. I think it was only like $5 when I got it on sale. I'm not sure what its full price is, but whether it's on sale, whether it's full price, it's another one where I can recommend. This is one where I'd say, considering its length, you might want to wait till it's on sale, because if I don't know what its full price is, but if its full price is like $20, considering the fact that you can beat it in 1 hour, that might deter some people. For me personally, I don't really care about price. For me, it's always, quality over quantity. I'm more than happy paying $70 for a game, even if it's only like 3 hours long as those 3 hours are good. But even then, I'm the type of guy where I always love experiencing new things. So even if I paid like $70 for a game and it's only like 3 hours, but it sucks, I'd still be happy, because I'd be like, hey, that was an experience. Some people might call it low standards. I just like to think that I have an open mind. That's just how I am. I take things at face value and I enjoy them for what they are. But considering that, if you have Souls experience, you might be able to beat it really fast. And if, like, price to quantity of content matters to you, you might want to wait till it's on sale. Just, wait till it's on sale for like $5, maybe pick it up then. Then like $3 for an hour. That seems fair. But I have a feeling it's going to take more like people more than an hour to beat this game. I could see it easily taking somewhere between like 5 to 6, maybe even more hours to beat the game. Because, it is just like a boss rush per se, but there is still like some exploring to do, and there is still a bit of a learning curve to the game. But anyway, that was 5. Technically, well, if you count the extra ones that I included, like 6, 7, like 8 indie games you should check out. But yeah, anyway, if you guys want another video like this, just let me know. I figured I'd make this one because the last one did really well, and I was like, hey, I have a ton of more indie games that I want to talk about, and clearly I couldn't even keep it to just 5 in this video. What can I say? I love my indie games. But again, as always, if you guys have any fun indie games that you've played or you want to recommend other people down in the comments, feel more than free to do so. And also let me know if any of the games in this video interest you, and if so, do you plan on picking any of them up? Let me know that as well. But anyway, as always, a massive shout out and thank you to all the patrons and channel members. Thank you to all of you in the low baller tier, and even bigger shout out and thank you to all of you in the big baller tier, Miller Last King and Big Daddy Manny, and the big shout out and thank you all to all of you in the G tier, Ryan Avengers, and Cheese Hero. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.